Hello, welcome to the item guide. In this video, we're going to look at Yuri's mind plane. So to show you, basically this. And what's going on is that every 4 seconds, I'm able to lay down mines. Cooldown is 4 seconds and light time of 12 seconds. So when I try to lay down this, I can only have 3 active at one time. If I try to deploy one after another, they can do 400 damage, so it will do 2 bars damage to droid or Awesomenauts, so it can be useful for clearing lanes or just for trying to deal lots of damage to enemies. Quick little way for Yuri to do that. Very low cooldown, just positioning is what you have to do to get this item to work. So multiple ways it can be used, either defensively, protecting your turret, like I was able to stop that push right there, or get up close to an enemy and deal damage that way. So mines are flexible to how you want to use them, and they are able to survive a fall anyway. So you can drop them from any distance, and it won't be of any issue. So there is a fall speed to them, and yeah, like if you want to, you can lay them on top of each other too, just to be evil. And this can work. You just have to get that positioning ready to work. So just for the sake of it. So you kind of get my idea. If an enemy were to hit all these mines, like so, it will deal 400 times however many mines they land into. So the mines can touch one another, like you can put one on top of another, like the sprites don't have collisions, so you can layer them on as many as you want to. And if you're able to get an enemy to run into it, all the better for you. Okay, the first item we're going to look at is called the Titanium Spikes. Can be bought 3 times, 120 solar each time. This will increase 50 damage to your 400 by default. So up to 550, and this will affect both droids and non-Awesomenauts. So rather than just enemy Awesomenauts like this one, this will damage everyone, especially people who are not Awesomenauts. Weedlings, critters, or anything like that, they will be affected by this item here. By default, it being 400. If I increase that by 1, it will then be 450. That applies to droids as well, like so. So each upgrade you get, it is pretty cheap item. Works quite well if you're more focused on droids, or if you're the only person that's aware of the droid problem. Works very well in the if you're trying to increase damage for mines and you want to be able to have the option to take out droids pretty quickly as well, because you can just get up pretty close, and that there's a bit of an area effect with it being an explosion, so you can damage multiple people, so you can clear out a wave of droids pretty quickly, where droids have about 700, 800 health, off the top of my head. But 500 health, that's nearly them taken out already. Another one, 550, like so. It affects the enemy Awesomenauts as well. So if you want to go for droids in your plan, rather than just focus on enemy Awesomenauts, this will damage everyone. This just gives the option to damage everyone. So 120, 240, 360 to do 150 extra damage to everyone. Okay, the toaster timer can be bought twice, 110 solar each time. This will increase the lifetime of your mines by 3 seconds per upgrade. So 12 seconds by default if you want to block off more areas at one time, or just have more mines in one spot to make a bigger trap with. By default, I can only have 3 active before they start expiring. So if you feel that you're not covering enough ground as you want to, or if you just want to be able to lay more traps in an area, you can increase this. So with that, I have 1 mine. I should be able to have 4 mines active where I have that 3 extra seconds. Should buy me a little more time to have some mines active. Just like so. So with each of them doing 400 damage, have them close by, can deal lots of damage if you can land it, or we just want to block off any entryways or exits for enemies, just to cover more ground while you do what you need to do. So do it once more. Should be able to have 5 mines active at one time. So that buys me this 1, 2, so if you want to block off some exits, if you want to prevent people from coming through, deal some damage if they try to get too close, or just block off some high traffic areas, anything like that, lay more mines to lay bigger punishment, and for a very cheap price as well. So instead of dealing extra damage, just have extra mines. But that only goes for if you're able to spend the time laying those mines and actively doing it. So it depends on what playstyle you're going for. This may work quite well, especially against invisible enemies. Just trying to block out as many places as possible to make that all work out. So, yeah. So not exactly damage, but it will help you expose an invisible enemy or just to block off routes. Or for bigger traps. Alright. Aerial Spring, 110 solar. This will allow your mines to bounce. So if you don't feel that laying mines on the ground are really working, if enemies are just jumping over it instead, or if you just don't have time to lay down multiple mines and watch over an area, if there's just too much going on, you have to go between lanes quite often, you can kind of make one mine do a better job by enabling this. So, it looks a little silly, but this is the bounce mechanic being affected. So from whatever height you're at, the mine will bounce to that. So notice that there's a slowish speed, and this will help with trying to block off enemies from trying to get somewhere. But as you might be able to notice, the fallback is the mines don't have a very fast speed. So what happens is that a lot of Yuris will make the mines bounce up really high, sometimes to give an element of surprise. But say if I'm trying to walk through here, I saw that mine go by, well, it's not really a threat, I can just go underneath it. So if you're going to use this, you have to be very careful with not being excessive with it. I mean by not making it so it's easy to jump over or to walk under. In a place like here, say if the turret was disabled, like if it was blown up, try to find a good sweet spot to make it really difficult to jump over or to walk under. Like here, especially if you're going to lay down multiple mines. Depending on the character, if it's someone who can't fly or doesn't have a double jump, it makes it very difficult to try to hop over that. But then again, someone who has good understanding of their character, their jump speeds, their falls, if they can double jump or not. Someone who can fly, it's not so tricky, but it might make it pretty tricky for some assassins to get through, or just bigger characters in general. So again, practice positioning, and if you want to be able to make it more difficult for enemies to get through, if they're being crafted by jumping over their mines, you can kind of work against that strategy by making them work more if they want to pass. Okay, Mine Constructor. Can be bought twice, 150 solar each time. This will reduce cooldown by 0.5 seconds per upgrade, so you can reduce it to either 3.5 or 3 seconds to lay mines. So if you haven't picked it up already, if you want to lay mines down more often, then that is an option you can do. So it takes, in comparison to other cooldowns, it's pretty short, but if you want to be able to lay them down more often, if you're rushing turrets, or if there's a group of enemies in front of you and you're trying to continue to deal that damage more often, if it's not about trying to lay a trap, if you're using it for more aggressive uses, or if you just need to use mines more often for whatever reason, just have that lesser cooldown, you can increase this. So by the looks of it, you can lay down mines a little bit better. It just allows you more time to keep laying down. But do bear in mind, when you're laying mines, you can't use your laser or use anything else. This takes up your time. Like, you can't do anything else while you're doing it. You can move if you want to, and you can also lay it while you're walking. You just can't use any other abilities, with your attack included, your laser. So do bear that in mind if you find yourself wanting to use your laser instead, but do bear in mind this does reduce your cooldown, so it does deal quite a bit of damage. So if you think you can do more damage with your laser, or if you just need to use your time warp, you can't cancel the attack. There's no cancel button like in other MOBA games. So if you end up being in a bad pinch, and that could have been time where you used the time warp, doesn't seem like much, but you know how tense some situations can be. So it depends on if you want to lay mines down more often. It does deal half damage to turrets, the mines will do. And even if you don't lay a direct hit with turrets, as long as they explode while you or an ally is nearby, it will do some damage to them. So if you want to be able to use mines more often for whatever reason, you have the option to do so. Okay, Carver bombs, 145 solar. This will reduce the damage of the mines by 2.5. However, you'll get 2 extra mines. So what it is basically you get 3 smaller mines, but they each do less damage than one whole mine does. But notice how it said divided by 2.5 and not 3. So just to show what it looks like, I can't stop that attack worthwhile. So what I mentioned about you can't use any other abilities, this really does show. The mines still can clip with each other, and you may have noticed that they will do 160 damage, with the damage being divided by 2.5 from the default. So 160, 320, or 480 if you can have someone walk into all 3 mines. So you can stack them on top one another. So if you're able to spend that time to lay them all down, you may want to consider it because you can deal extra damage to an enemy, 80 extra just by default for that price. And do bear in mind, if you choose to get more damage for it, that damage will be divided by 2.5 to fit into the smaller mines. So you can actually do more damage, but for the trade-off that it takes longer to set the mines, and if you lay them about, they don't do a whole lot of damage, like not even a bar of damage. So do bear that in mind, someone can just walk through, no problem, especially a sentry. So do bear in mind, like, try to figure out how you're going to use it before you actually do use it. But they can work quite well. A great way for exposing someone who's invisible. I'm very paranoid against invisible characters, if you haven't noticed by now. But this is a good way of scattering about an area to prevent absolutely anybody from getting through. Especially combine it with this, you want to be that kind of guy. But it will do extra damage if you're able to get all of your mines to make contact. Alright, the last item in the list is Uranium Spikes. 300 solar. This will increase the damage by 150, but only to enemy Awesomenauts. So it's similar to this. It's a little bit cheaper, but it won't do any extra damage to droids or any non-Awesomenauts, weedlings, or anything like that. So do bear that in mind if you're going for a more aggressive build, or if your priority is for enemy Awesomenauts. It's a cheaper way of increasing your damage for one low price of 300 solar. So you can combine the two if you want, but you're not going to be able to do any extra damage to non-Awesomenauts. As you can see, it only still does that 400 damage. It still does 550 damage to enemy Awesomenauts because it still qualifies as such, and like so, does not make any effect. So if you end up having to defend lanes, you're not really going to be able to do a whole lot. So you may want to combine the two damaging items. But if you find yourself attacking Awesomenauts more often than not, this is the better choice with its cheaper price. So that's Yuri's mines for 2.8.2. If this build gets updated sometime in the future, I will try to update it as soon as I can. But that has been it. Thanks very much for watching.